Hello and welcome to another math video. This video is a practice quiz for the FST 1.1 and 1.3. Starting with a couple questions about using set builder notation. Let's see, so for this first one, it's nothing too fancy. We just do our set builder notation, set of all values x such that, and then x is just going to be an integer. So it's an integer between, and we'll say -8 and -2. I'll end my set there. Now again, with between, then we got to go outside of what we have. So -7 to -3, we got to go below to -8 and above to -2. This next one is going to be the same basic idea. Set of values x such that x is a, let's see, I could go natural number. I'm just going to use hashtag for number. So it's a natural number between, and let's see, we got to go between, so we're going 1 and 7. You could use a different set of numbers. You could say an integer, you could say a whole number. But natural numbers works as well. So there you've got some options. Now on the first one, you couldn't say natural number or whole number because there's negatives involved. For 3, 4, and 5, we've got a set of numbers, and what we're doing is just listing the elements that are of that indicated type. So for number 3, we're looking for the ones that are integers. So let's see. So 7 is an integer. Square root of 6 is not. -13 is. 0 is. Now 0 over 8 is an integer because that's still 0, and so is the square root of 25. So if I were to list those out, it'd be 7, -13, 0, and we do write 0 over 8. You know, it seems funny, but we do. And then we should write it as the square root of 25. However, if you write it as 5, it's not like I would mark it wrong. But one key there is we do have both of those. Let's see, the next one we're looking at whole numbers. So 7, square root of 6 and -19 are not whole. 0 and 0 over 4 are, and so is the square root of 25. So if I were to write those out, again, it may seem funny, but I would have 0 and 0 over 4. And then rational numbers. So 6 is rational, square root of 8 is not, -13 is. 0, 0 over 8. Square root of 9 is, pi is not, -3 over 0 is not, that's undefined, and 0.66 is rational. So again, if I write those out, we got 6, -13, 0, 0 over 8, the square root of 9, and 0.66. And so that's the way that we would do those. For 6, 7, 8, 9, we're doing absolute values. So let's see. We would be doing absolute value of -25 is positive 25. Absolute value of 5 halves is just 5 halves. Here the negative is on the outside, so that's just -15, and then -11. So that's how those turn out. And 10 and 11, we got to write those in interval notation. So if it's greater than 8, then 8 would be the minimum. It would go up to infinity. If it goes from -4 up to 8, then -4 would be the minimum, and 8 would be the maximum. For number 12, just evaluating that expression, so we're squaring -7. Note there that the negative is getting squared, so there's 2 negatives. That means it's positive 49. Compare that to number 13 where you're just squaring the 6. So there's only 1 negative and we get -36. For 14, writing that using exponents, there are 7 of those. So we go 2/9 to the 7th power. Just make sure you count carefully there. And 15, there are 5 -3s. We should have the -3 in parentheses because, again, our objective is to write that expression using exponents. So in order to get that, we have the -3 in parentheses. 16, 17, and 18, we're finding the square roots. If there's not a real number, then we'll just say not a real number. So the square root of 529, that is 23. The square root of negative 529 is not real. And 18's got a negative on the outside, so don't miss that. So it's negative. And we square root the 1 and get 1, and square root 225 and get 15. So negative 115, or sorry, negative 1 over 15, or negative 1/15. So let's see, 19, we're simplifying by using order of operations. We would do the 5 times 2 first. So let's see, adding the 10 plus the 20 divided by 5. Still inside the parentheses, we would do the 10 plus the 20 and get 30. So negative 13 plus 30 divided by 5. Now we have to divide next, so negative 13 plus 6, because 30 divided by 5 is 6. And then negative 13 plus 6 would be negative 7. So that's what we get for number 19. 20, see if I can kind of sneak this one in here. All right, so give this one a shot here. Okay, so in the numerator, I can do that 8 times negative 8 because it's separated from the other part of the numerator by subtraction. Here I should really cube the 3 first, which would be 27. In the denominator, I should square root the 81 first. And there we go. In the numerator, what I can do next is multiply. So negative 64 minus the 54. And in the denominator, with doing subtracting and adding, I got to do that from left to right. So 11 minus 9 first. We get 2 plus 4. In the numerator, I just find that, or do that subtraction. We'll get negative 118, and that goes over 6. And if you feel like that should reduce, you are correct. It does reduce down to negative 59 over 3. And there we go, so that one's all set. And again, make sure you do reduce that. We do prefer the reduced fraction as opposed to like negative 19.6 repeating. And then the last 3 questions, we evaluate the expression, we plug a negative 5 in for A, 16 for B, and a 7 for C. Of course, they don't all use all of those numbers. So for 21, we have the square root of 16 plus 45 over, that's a 5, 45 over A, which is negative 5. We can do 2 things right away. We can square root the 16 and get 4. We could also go ahead and divide the 45 by negative 5. We would get negative 9. So 4 plus a negative 9 or 4 minus 9, however you want to think of that, as long as you get negative 5. For number 9, we plug in the 7 for the C, and B is 16. So we do have some work to do inside those parentheses. We can multiply the 2 and 7 and the 4 and 16. So that ends up giving us 9 times 14 minus 64. We could distribute, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would just do the 14 minus 64, just follow regular order of operations there. So let's see, we end up with negative 50 inside those parentheses. This is a 9. So 9 times negative 50, so negative 450. So we get for 22. And then 23, of course, we have to have a fraction there. Oops, I can't see A, B, and C anymore if I do that. Okay, so, whoops. All right, so we have 3 times C, which is 7, minus A, which is negative 5, which is getting squared, over 5 times A, which is negative 5, plus C, which is 7, which is getting squared. Again, we can treat the numerator and denominator separately. In the numerator, we can go ahead and do the 3 times 7, because it's separated using a subtraction there. We're squaring negative 5, so the result is a positive 25, but we're still subtracting that. In the denominator, we get a negative 25 from the 5 times negative 5, and then we add 49. Be very careful with the signs there. Lots of negatives to worry about. In the numerator, we get negative 4. In the denominator, we get 24. So negative 4 over 24 would be negative 1/6. Please remember to reduce fractions as much as possible. Well, hopefully you found this video helpful, and as always, thanks for watching.